if everyone would go ahead and come on in. I'm not sure.
We'll do it. That's fine.
All right, the first one's going to be I Tried and I Tried. Come on, everybody. And the next one will be I Will Call Upon the Lord after that. I tried and I tried, I tried and I tried, I tried and I tried, until I found the Lord. My soul just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented. Let me ask you a question. You guys know this song?
I do not.
You're going to learn it, all right? So this is an easy song, all right? People are looking at me like, I don't know what you're doing up here. And neither do I necessarily, but we're going to sing together. We're going to have a great time. So,
Amen. Amen.
So it's 117. So it goes, I tried and I tried, I tried and I tried, I tried and I tried, until I found the Lord. My soul just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, until I found the Lord. I searched and I searched, I searched and I searched, I searched and I searched, until I found the Lord. My soul just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, until I found the Lord. I prayed and I prayed, I prayed and I prayed, I prayed and I prayed, until I found the Lord. My soul just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be content, until I found the Lord. I cried and I cried, I cried and I cried, I cried and I cried, until I found the Lord. Just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be content, until I found the Lord. I found, yes I found, I found, yes I found, I found, yes I found, I finally found the Lord. Just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be contented, just couldn't be content, until I found the Lord. Good job, guys. That was good. That was not a hard one, right? All right. So we got I Will Call Upon the Lord. You guys know that one?
Yep. Yes.
I will call upon the
Lord,
who is worthy to be praised. And so shall I be saved from my enemies. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. Oh, magnify the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. Let us praise the Lord of Lords. Praise Him now and evermore. Praise the Father, Son, and the Spirit. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. I know the Lord liveth, and
Blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted.
Amen. So I'm going to be brave and say we'll take some requests. So we'll see what happens. Any requests? What's that?
Men who dream.
Man who dream.
No.
That's for Sunday. I don't have that song in me right now. It'd be scary. You may not dream for weeks after that. Exactly. If you hear me do that. Any other thoughts? Greatest commands. You guys want to do it?
Oh, that's a lot of requests.
Okay. There's too many songs coming at once. I'm sorry. So, do you guys want to play Light the Fire? Light the Fire? Sure. Okay, you guys get the instruments out real quick. And
I don't think we have any instruments.
we don't have any instruments? Okay, you just pretend.
All right, cool.
So we're not going to do that. We're going to do Blue Skies.
Let's go. Blue skies.
All right, Blue Skies.
I'm gonna give you a hand.
You're going to give me a hand? Okay. Will you help me lead? Okay, let's do it.
I don't want
You don't want to?
to, but I just
You
want
going to give me a hug? Okay, I'll take a hug. Blue skies
And rainbows and sunbeams from heaven are all I can see. When my Lord's living in me, I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part. Green grass and flowers all blooming in springtime are works of the Master. I live for each day. I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Down in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part. Tall mountains, green valleys, the beauty that surrounds me, all make me aware of the one who made it all. I know that Jesus is well and alive today. He makes his home in my heart. Nevermore will I be all alone, since he promised me that we never would part.
Sound really good up here. I like that.
Amen.
Good job. All right. So, is there another song with it? We don't have instruments, so yes. Sing and be happy. You got it. All right. Sing and be happy.
Let's do it.
I'll tell you funny, as we're turning this song, when I was a young Christian, I went and we would have these Friday night devotionals, and for the college group, and it was a huge crowd of people with it. It was, and I was just baptized, and we're going to sing this song, "Sing and Be Happy," and I was so aggravated. A great spiritual man I was at that time, because I didn't have any. There was no songbooks, and everybody just knew them. When they were singing, I was like, "How am I supposed to sing and be happy? I don't even know the words." So I repented of that, and I love this song actually. So let's sing it. If the skies above you are
Gray, you are feeling so blue. If your cares and burdens seem great all the whole day through, there's a silver lining that shines in the heavenly land. Look by faith and see it, my friend. Trust in his promises grand. You gotta sing
and be happy
be happy, press on to the goal. Trust in him who leads you, he will keep your soul. Let
the world know where you
be faithful, look to him and pray. Lift your voice and praise him in song. Sing and be happy today. Oft we fail to see the rainbow up to heaven's fair skies. When it seems the fortunes of earth frown and pass us by, there are things we know that are worth more than silver and gold. If we hope and trust him each day, we shall have treasures untold. You gotta sing and be happy, press on to the goal. Gotta trust in him who leads you, he will keep your soul. Let all be faithful, look to him and pray. Lift Lift your voice and praise him in song. Sing and be happy today. Often we are troubled and tired, sick with sorrow and pain. There are others living in sin, blessed with earthly gain. Take new courage, we cannot tell what the morrow may bring. When the dark clouds vanish away, then your heart truly can sing. You gotta sing and be happy, press on to the goal. Gotta trust in him who leads you. He will keep your soul and all. Be faithful, look to him and pray. Lift your voice and praise him in song. Sing and be happy today.
All right, thank you guys so much. Be seated, please.
Amen.
And is Caitlin in my... Okay, so I'm going to give an announcement first before Caitlin comes up. So April 5th is a special day we're going to make, as many as would like to, with the church. We are celebrating and remembering Darlene Pemberton. She was an avid baseball fan, loved going to Florida State baseball, and would go, just loved that. And so we, last year, wanted to try to do something, but lots of things happened, and we are going to have on April 5th, Darlene Pemberton Memorial kind of fun evening at the Florida State baseball. They're going to be playing Jacksonville. It's a 7 o'clock game. What I need from you, if you are going to come, I need to be a paper. Actually, let's pass it around because we want to know who would like to come. It'll be 7 o'clock, and then we will meet. We'll just meet at the stadium and just have a fun night together and sit all together. So if you are interested in that, if you would sign up and pass this around, that would be good. Can someone do that for us? And we're going to do it on Sunday also because I have to give a count to Florida State on Monday. So we can get our tickets and everything set up, okay? Questions about that? So it'll be 7 o'clock, April 5th. So please, there'll be a paper passed around for the baseball. It's coming around on a clipboard that Leah is bringing around. So thank you for doing that. And then go ahead and come on up, Caitlin, that'd be great. Yes? Okay. All right. All right. If you didn't hear that, let me just make sure. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary for the TNT group. So we want to want to clap for just a second. But I want to tell you, that group has started out, and the neat thing about them is they love being together, but they're making a difference in so many other their group is just reaching out and making an impact on so many other things. So I'm really proud of that group's, the mindset, the heart they have. They have fun, and they're actually love and action kind of people. So I really do appreciate you, TNT. So TNT people, stand up, all you TNT people that are in here. And then we want to thank you guys. Hey, you got it.
Hello. All right. So I have my helper. All right. The AV team is in need of more volunteers, so training will be provided. They're looking for people willing to serve the church in this way. So if you're interested in helping out with AV, you don't need to know anything. You will learn everything you need to know. Please contact John Groves if you are interested. Let's see, Chris announced that one. The Campus Ministry Worship Night is happening March 27th. It's at 7 p.m. at FSU's Moore Auditorium. If you would like to go, please reach out to Matt Fantini. He's your contact there. If you are interested in, let's see here, we've got parents, adults, ex-scouts, I believe it's Hope Worldwide ex-scouts, who would like more information about organizing a scouts troop. There's a form on the entrance table. If you, this is a little challenging. If you think you might be interested, grab a packet and then let AK know that you want to get involved in that, whether you're going to help volunteer or lead it, or if you're going to have your kids go, or whatever that looks like for you. And lastly, there is cookies on that bar back there, so if you like cookies, that's the place to go, either right now after we break for a minute, or after the service is over. Do we have any birthdays? No birthdays this week. All right, any anniversaries? No. All right. Makes my job easy. Well, it's good to see you all. Yes. 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 Can you guys put that mobile number up for Bethany? And then let me read it to you as well. It is right there. Okay, so 850-688. They're playing tricks on me. 2264. 850-688-2264. And again, with that, if you can, try and get your announcements in on Tuesdays or by Tuesdays for Wednesday night and by Friday for Sunday nights. That would be a huge help to her. So, all right, that's it. Thank you.
There is a little bit of reverb. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have your Faith Life Study Bible app on your phone, open it up. Make sure you click on that little icon in the bottom for the presentation for tonight's lesson. In a few moments, we will be taking a quiz. So Faith Life Study Bible app should be like a little call out kind of symbol in the bottom, kind of looks like a text with lines coming out from it. That should load up your presentation group. If it doesn't, click on the 3 lines in the right hand corner, go to presentation groups, and you can load it from there.
John, I'm sorry. One more time. Faith what?
Faith Life Study Bible app. For those that loaded it, we kind of downloaded them and stuff the other week. So I am probably going to get hurt for this. But I have been told that someone is trying to ignore the fact that her birthday was last Friday and avoid us singing to her. Oh, it was last Wednesday. See, you told me Friday, man. You got to give me good information. So, Diana, 29 and a half, something like that. So,
I'm 64, one more year to retirement.
if you'll sing with me, we're going to wish her a belated happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Diana. Happy birthday to you. Okay. All right, if you want to bring up the first slide in my lesson there, that's where we're at today. Being the influencer God is calling you to be. So, there's this thing out there in our world called social media influencers. Now, we're going to try to have fun tonight. We're going to try to test your knowledge a little bit. Our world has taken influencing to a whole new level, and not in a very good way, if you know anything about it. Therefore, enter the social media influencer. How many of you know what I'm talking about when I use the phrase social media influencer, or media influencer for short? Okay, again, I'm going to test you on that in a moment. Influencers for short, and here is a definition I found off of a social media marketing group's website, because there aren't many good definitions out there. Influencers are social media personalities with loyal audiences that they earn by sharing content that inspires, entertains, informs, and connects them with their followers. This direct line of communication empowers influencers to generate social conversations, drive engagement, and ultimately set trends amongst a receptive and socially savvy audience. I tried to look, because I'm not on TikTok or Instagram. I don't do the talk. I looked on YouTube to try to find some little video clips to show. And what I found is the ones that are on YouTube are usually fails, and they're not really church appropriate. So we're not going to show those tonight. But what we're going to do is, there are times when good things are talked about. There are some that right now who are really advocating peace, really trying to push their way in and talk about things that are going on in Ukraine and build up support for that, and those are great things. There are those that bring social injustices to the forefront and try to do their best to get that message out there about how those things should be changed. All right? Then there are those that give makeup tutorials. There are those that, well, there's just a whole lot of garbage out there. We'll leave it at that. But they're trying to influence people. That is what they're working on. They're trying to influence people. Ultimately, what it really means for them is the more followers they get, the more ad content they can get sold, and the more money they make. All right, so we're going to take a little quiz here. Do people have their unit loaded up? Is their app loaded? All right, we'll attempt this and see. If not, maybe we may have to do it by a raising of hands. All right, go ahead and start survey number 1. Survey number 1, who is Kylie Jenner? Is she a professional volleyball player? A Walmart employee? Is she the owner of a cosmetic line? Or is she the owner of the largest dog walkers club? See? Is that because you can see these live generating, Sharon? Is that it? I said, are you guessing that because it's C, or do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I feel like
Okay. Next time I'm going to leave the live results till after we've answered the question. So, yes, C, Kylie Jenner, also among being a Kardashian, is the owner of her own cosmetic company. She may or may not be a billionaire at, what is she, 27 now? 23? Something like that. I figured you'd know. But she is very young, is in TV, all kinds of things, but Kylie is an influencer. And you can get on YouTube and look at all kinds of things that she promotes. I probably wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Okay, our second question. Cristiano Ronaldo. All right, so is he, wow, I can't read that because I don't have my glasses on. Is he a fashion model? Is he a soccer player? Is he the governor of Ohio or a musician? Man. I wish right now I knew whether this was the under 30 crowd answering these questions or the over 30 crowd or in between. We might have to try to poll for demographics later. Okay, but yes, Cristiano Ronaldo is a Portuguese soccer player. Now, I should have mentioned this with Kylie. I'll mention this with Cristiano as well. Kylie Jenner has 317 million followers on Instagram, okay? Because that's what they call a person who is looking to the influencer to influence them, a follower. Like that's new knowledge. But Cristiano Ronaldo has 410 million followers. All right, our third contestant is, who is Selena Gomez? Okay, so is she a supermodel, a billionaire? C would be, I don't remember what I said, a Walmart employee. Oh no, owner of Whataburger, or a musician and actress? She is a musician and actress. Selena has 302 million followers. I don't have any, by the way, because I'm not on. Okay, so our next question, we're going to throw it around a little bit. Which Marvel character does Tom Holland play? Does he play Loki, Spider-Man, Thor, or Groot? I am Groot. He is Spider-Man. If you have not watched his versions of Spider-Man, you're missing out. He's a great Spider-Man. Okay, so our last one, I'm sure everyone is going to get correct. Who are Kodiak Red and Fly Soldier? Okay, so your choices are math professors, Walmart employees, the singers of The Island Boy, or models. As you can see from there, they are the singers of The Island Boy. If you have not had the privilege of watching this video, you need to. It will send you into prayer for our younger generations. It really will. I had the opportunity of seeing it at work several weeks back. They have 1.1 million followers. They're not big yet, but they're trying to get there. We could go on all day with this kind of thing. In fact, one site I visited had the 1,000 top Instagram influencers from all different categories. People want to be influencers. People think that they can be influencers. However, and there were all kinds of categories. I don't want to go into the different kind of categories there were, but there were all different kinds of influencers. There was one category I could not find on this website. Anyone want to take a guess what it was? Church, or disciples, or Christian overall kind of theme. There were not. There are Christian influencers out there. Sadie Robertson, last name's Hull, I think now, or Huff, something like that. She is one of them. You can find some out there, and they are good people. Again, I'm not on the Insta, so I don't subscribe. But one of the things I found interesting is in 2019, ABC did a survey. And in that survey, one of the results they found is that 60% of us would prefer people keep their religious views to themselves. Do you agree with that? Hopefully nobody in here really does. But what you've probably experienced is that the world would rather you keep your views to yourselves. If you agree with that, shake your head up and down. Yes. Okay. I'm an influencer. Look at that, boy. I don't even have to go any further. You got the message. Okay. Yet, 2,000 years ago, Jesus called his followers to be influencers who would change the world. So this evening, I want us to hear that calling with a renewed sense of urgency, because many of the influencers out there today are calling our young people and our world to not follow God, but to adhere to their beliefs about what is important to them. And where they are leading us is to a world without Jesus, where priority is number one, pleasing yourself and doing what makes you happy. And Jesus called us to influence this world, to follow him. But before we get into the text, I want to ask you this question. Is there a time limit on your influence in this world or for sharing your faith? Okay, there is. At some point, Jesus will come back. All right, now, let me ask it, same question in a little bit different of a context. Is there a point where you have graduated out of being an influencer for God and sharing your faith with others? Okay. I sat in a Bible class one time, group of men. I think I may have shared this story before, where we were sitting around talking about evangelizing and about doing different things, and the idea of door knocking came up and whether it was effective or not anymore. And in the middle of that kind of conversation, I heard one of the men in the room say, well, evangelism is a young person's game. I did that when I was younger. I spent a lot of time door knocking and doing other things. I don't do that now. And I thought to myself, where did you get this idea? That just some point came and you could go, you know what? It's no longer my place to share my faith with people. It's no longer my place to look to share the gospel message with a world around me that is falling further and further away from God. If anything, I would tell you the world that we are in right now needs God more than the world of the 1950s or the 1960s. So Jesus, in Matthew chapter 5, beginning in verse 13, says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Jesus seems pretty clear here in verse 13 that you is not talking about people in general, but specifically to his followers. So if you claim tonight to be a follower of Jesus, then the words that he just said apply to you today as much as they did those first hearers when he said them long ago. They are to be salt. Here, Jesus does not specifically tell us what kind of salt they are to be or what aspect of salt, what purpose they are to have, but he is saying that their nature as kingdom citizens will be to show itself in their actions. So, let's spend a few minutes kind of thinking about it. What aspects of salt might Jesus be talking about here? So, general uses. What can you use salt for? Perry? Preservation. So it can preserve things. Seasoning is another thing. You can season things. I'm one of those people, salt and pepper really is about all I want to put on a steak. Just a little bit, just to give it a little flavor. And a little bit goes a long way. Steve?
Roman soldiers were paid in salt. That's where they get the saying, worth your salt.
Yes, worth your salt. Greek word for salt was salaire. When it was given to a Roman soldier, it was called a salarium. Everybody say salarium. You'll learn a Latin word tonight. And that Latin word means salary. That is what salarium means. Yes, my dear.
When you get cuts, it like heals.
Okay, so sometimes you can use salt as a cleaning agent in a wound. So if you don't have any hydrogen peroxide or those kind of things around you, you can use it and kind of rub those things out. Other reasons or other uses for it. Okay, ice on the road. So one of the things it can do is melt ice on the roads.
Rock salt, make ice cream.
Rock salt, you can make ice cream. There you go, Steve. It'll clean your cutting board pretty good. It has that ability. It has the capacity to create thirst. And to also help replenish it or rehydrate it, as I have learned from our athletes who talk about drinking their little salt solutions that come in different forms. Another thing is that it brightened the light of lamps. So one of the things that they used to do back in Jesus' day and time is they would take basically cow dung or a manure of some kind, and they would mix it with salt and make little fire starting cakes out of them. And what they would do is throw them on the fire and it would make the fire burn longer. Okay? So, as good exegetical students as we are, what of these things could Jesus have been talking about in that day and time? Okay, so was Jesus talking about salting the roads? No, had no idea with that. Could you maybe apply that to today? Maybe, but not really one of those things Jesus would have been familiar with. Okay, something else. Which way?
Preserving things to keep them good.
Okay, preserving things to keep them good. Yes, definitely a preserve. And as Christians, we can help preserve the world around us if we do things right. Bethany. Oh, he took yours? Shame on you. Okay, other things.
See, the lady called it right up the light of the world. But he was also thinking of
The
Fire
cakes, yeah, possibly.
seasoning.
Seasoning, okay. Yeah, you can. Oh, okay. So yes, all of those things, we talk about being flavor. The disciples could be bringing flavor to the gospel message. It should never be boring. It's always the same truth, but it can be given in different ways. And so maybe Jesus was trying to say, take my gospel message and flavor the world with it. Preserving it, it's our job to preserve the truth and keep it out there. Cleansing agent, we can bring it to the world to help bring the world to God. Salt has the capacity to create thirst, so just in that same way, we should be people who influence or help people to want to drink the message up. Salt brighten the light of lamps, so we can help to brighten the influence of Christ on the world by being his hands and feet. All of those are good things. all of those are applicable things. The reality, and we don't know for certain, but the reality is probably what Jesus had in mind, given to where he was telling this message at, is that he was probably talking about the salt that was derived from the Dead Sea by evaporation. And here's the reason why. Let me give you this kind of concept. The residue also contained crystals of another mineral, gypsum, which could be mistaken when you first look at it, first glance, as being salt. And so if we think about things with that in mind, the point here is it could be that, it could be the other things that we've talked about, not salting the road, but a lot of the other things it could be. But the point Jesus is trying to make is that salt has a capacity to benefit in quite a fundamental amount of ways if we are living the life of influence that we are called to live. Salt is not something that we gain, but it is something we become because of Jesus. Okay. So like the gypsum, we can become something other than salt. We might look like it, but when we are held up to scrutiny, we do not measure up to it. Okay? So again, let's take a brief moment and look at what Jesus says here. You are the salt of the earth. Okay? So you are the ones who are bringing this salt. However you may look at it, you're bringing the salt to the world around you. Okay? But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Now, Jesus may be making a reference to the gypsum here. The idea that when you go, it looks similar, but it really isn't. Okay? Because after all, can salt lose its saltiness? How? Getting wet? You ever put salt in water? Is it still salty? Yeah. Is there a way for salt to become not salty? If you dilute it enough, it'll still be present, but you cannot detect it always. Okay. We're going to hold on to that because we're going to talk about that again in a moment. What I want you to see here is the absurdity of what Jesus is proposing and what his audience would have heard. You are the salt of the earth. Oh, that's great, Jesus. We're the salt of the earth. Insert whatever you interpreted that to be right there. But then Jesus follows it up with, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it become salty again? And his audience is going, Jesus, that doesn't make sense. Because salt can't lose its saltiness. Salt is salt. But there are ways that salt can become less salty. And so, as Allison pointed out a moment ago, we can have our saltiness diluted by the world around us. And so we walk a fine line as Christians because we are to be in the world, but not of the world. Okay? We're not supposed to just hide behind these walls and say, boy, God's given us a good message. I'm glad I can share it with all of you. God is saying to us, we are to be in the world, but not of the world. We are to be the salt in this world, but we can't allow it to be lost or diluted amongst everything else. And so we walk this fine line. And if you don't feel it as a Christian, if you don't feel that tension, you're either way more pious than I am, or you're spending way less time in the world. Because it is a line. How do I relate to the people? We talked about this at Life Group a few weeks back. How do I relate to the people around me in such a way that they see Jesus, but they don't see Christians and want to walk back away? Okay, remember our study a moment ago. 60% of the people don't want you talking to them about religion. They just don't. And so how do you walk that line where you are influencing them and you're being salt? And like we'll talk about here in a moment, being light. But you're not doing that in such a way that, well, we'll get to that a little bit in light. Let me finish up with the second way I want to point out. There is a difference here, though, that Jesus doesn't get to. Because those of us who are salt can lose our saltiness. And the writer of Hebrews talks about this. And so in Hebrews chapter 6, beginning in verse 4, the writer says, "It is impossible for those who have once been enlightened, who have tasted the heavenly gift, who have shared in the Holy Spirit, who have tasted the goodness of the Word of God and the powers of the coming age, and who have fallen away, to be brought back to repentance. To their loss, they are crucifying the Son of God all over again, and it's subjecting him to public disgrace." And so what I would like to propose to you is that there is this way that we begin to dilute ourselves. Again, we have this tension of a line that we're walking. We are to be in the world, but not of the world. And so as we're walking that line, if we continue to allow ourselves to go more towards the world side, we become more and more deluded. And after a while of being deluded, we begin to dilute ourselves. We begin to tell ourselves those things of doubting our faith. Is God really there? Is God really someone that I, should love, or who loves me? Is he really a part of my life? And so in that way, we can get to a point that we can actually lose our saltiness and begin to look at Christianity as the adversary. Okay. So, Jesus warns us that at this last verse, that salt that is not salty is no use to the kingdom. It's kind of like in Revelation where he talks about being lukewarm. I'd rather you be hot or cold, but because you're lukewarm, I'd just rather spit you out. And Jesus is saying here, if you become so deluded by the world that you lose sight of me, you're not any use to the kingdom. David.
How is it impossible to come back? I mean, going through a season of sin, hitting rock bottom, coming back to Jesus, how do you fall further than rock bottom that you can't come back?
Yeah.
You cannot get that saltiness back?
So here's what I would say to that. One of the things that we see in the Bible is the concept of the hardening of your heart. Okay? And so hardening of the heart is reaching that final point where you just kind of divorce yourself from God completely. And so what the writer is saying here is that not on God's part can you never come back, but that on your part, you can allow yourself to get so hardened, you will not come back. You won't want to come back. Does that make sense? Tab, did you have anything you wanted to follow up with that?
Exactly what I was.
Okay. Bethany?
I was gonna, what would, the practical, what would that look like? Do you know?
To a person? The hardening or the just complete let go?
Getting to, like he said, getting to that point where it's like, I guess the point of no return.
Yeah. So I can talk about that with people in my life who I continue to still pray for and pray that God will bring them back. But it is when tragedy or usually things that you can't wrestle through completely get such a hold on you that it begins with doubting God and doubting whether or not he is there. And it turns at some point from a doubt to kind of a blatant I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at it. When people bring it up, it is don't want that in my life. And it is getting to that point that they keep pushing and pushing and pushing to the point that in most ways that I've seen, if you try to push, they write you off. Nope, sorry, we're no longer friends. We're no longer in that type of space. Speaking from me, from my depression, okay, I had things very different because in the midst of my depression, even when I hit the spots that I would consider rock bottom, I never had a doubt that God existed. I doubted that God saw me worthy enough. Okay? So what I would tell you in using that illustration is it's the idea that people get to a point that they don't even see God anymore. And they don't want to see God. So, anything else, Chris?
Yeah, I would say the same thing on that. Think of the prodigal son, okay? Everyone say he's fun, but there comes to a point in time when you do so much, your heart gets so hardened that it's impossible to come back. Not because God doesn't want to do it, but because it doesn't matter what you see, what you hear, what anything happens. Think of the Pharisees. They saw Jesus and said he was Satan. You know, so it's just, there's a part of your life when the hatred, the sin dominates so bad, you can't escape it. It's kind of the way I look at it. But a lot of times people feel like, oh, I was like the prodigal son. I fell into this mess. I believed and then fell back. This is a different level.
Yeah.
It's a different level of falling away. It depends on how you use that word, but it's a different level. You get to some people, and we all know people probably that become so hard that they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
Go along with what Chris was saying, I think that you can get to, I know certain people that have gotten to a place in their life because of actual hatred towards God because they think in their warped mind that he's responsible for where they are.
Yeah.
Whether it be a death in the family, child loss, just all kinds of crazy things that they have put the blame on God. So they just said, well, if that's the way he is, I don't want anything to do with him. He's not a loving God. So why would I want to worship him?
Yeah.
People that can get to that point and just turn. I had an aunt like that.
Yeah.
She lost her husband and her son within a 6-month period, and she was left alone. And she was like, God. And I'm like, man, that's not what you think. It's, but when they get to that point, they are like, they're feeding that unbelief and the wrong thing.
Yeah. And the warning for us here is to always find ourselves in the midst of tragedy, turning towards God, not away from God. Okay. Even if you're mad, I've showed it to the teenagers. I don't think I've shown it here, but there's a scene out of the movie The Apostle where a guy named Sonny is up in his room just yelling and screaming at God. And at one point he used the phrase, I've always called you God and you've always called me Sonny. But he's just yelling at the top of his lungs. And God, I think, is okay with that kind of authenticity. Thank you. Sorry. He's okay with us having our questions. He's okay with us bringing our feelings to him. But if we choose to walk away, he will always be there with open arms. But we will find ourselves walking further and further away. So look at your neighbor and say, hey, you were supposed to be salt. Come on now, it's not being convincing. I need to see this, Don. Look at Mary and say, you are supposed to be salt. Whatever way that God has called you to be it, you are to be salt. Light of the world. This metaphor is a little more specific. Light has one purpose, and that's to illuminate. And I really wanted to bring it, but I lost it somehow over the weekend. I have one of these little strip light headlights. And buddy, if you want to talk about blinding you, those things can be blinding. I had it on when we were at the campsite Friday and Saturday night, and you could turn it on, and it just lit up everything. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to try to stick to things because I'm falling behind. Light of the world is found in a range of Jewish sources applied to God. Adam, distinguished rabbis, Israel, the Torah, and the temple, and even Jerusalem. So this phrase, light of the world, that Jesus uses here, the moment he would have said it, their ears would have perked up because they are used to hearing that phrase. Cicero considered Rome a light to the world. John 8:12 uses the light of the world to refer to Jesus. And there are several different Old Testament texts where the servant or Israel is a light to the nations. And I particularly want to focus in on those because I think that is what Jesus was calling them to when he talked about this. So let's look at 3 of them real quick. They all come from Isaiah. Isaiah 42 verse 6 says, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles. Isaiah 49 verse 6, he says, it is too small a thing for you to be servants to restore the tribes of Jacob and bring back those of Israel I have kept. I will make you a light for the Gentiles, that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth. In Isaiah 60, verse 3, nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. I cannot help but believe that Jesus is using the same language here to remind his audience what they were all about. See, the Israelites ignored it, but when God called them to be his chosen people, it was not for them to withdraw from the rest of the world and kind of huddle together and say, nope, we're not going to let anybody else in. It was their calling from very early on to be a light to the people around them. To be those who said, our God Yahweh is the one true God, and follow him. See, if it was meant to be any other way, the idea of proselytization wouldn't have been there. You know, the idea of them having someone who came into their midst and said, I want to be a chosen person too. If it wasn't meant to be that way, they would simply go, well, you can't be. God chose us. But there were ways established in the Old Testament that those who were outside of the 12 tribes of Israel could become members of the community and members of God's household. And Isaiah here is really bringing this home in his writing to say, God made you to be a light to the Gentiles. And so when Jesus says here, I am calling you to be the light of the world, he is saying to us today, it is our job to illuminate Christ to the world around us. Okay? He uses 2 examples here to kind of talk about how it is not. So he says a city on a hill. Okay, so when they heard him say this, you are to be the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. This would have been one of those duh moments for them. Like, Jesus, what are you talking about? Of course a city on a hill can't be hidden. We live in a city with huge buildings all over the place. They didn't. Cities on a hill were not meant to be hidden. They were fortified really well. But they were never meant to be hidden. They were meant to be able to say, hey, look who we are. Okay? And so when Jesus says here, a city on a hill cannot be hidden, they're going, yeah, we know that already. But Jesus is saying, you may know that, but hear what I'm saying to you. So you're not just salt, but you're also light. And if you're light, you cannot be hidden because you're like that city on a hill. Okay? He then uses another just absurd kind of thought for them. Hey, who of you is going to light a candle and put it under a basket? Well, no, Jesus. That's a waste of a good candle and not going to do very good at lighting my house up. I mean, it's just not. And so with salt, when Jesus says, how can it lose its saltiness? They're going, it can't, Jesus. Maybe we could, think of it as being gypsum, but salt itself can't lose its saltiness. And when Jesus says here, you are the light of the world, a city on a hill cannot be hidden, or putting a bush, yes, but I'm getting my old song, Hide It in a Bushel, mixed up. Lighting a candle and putting it in a basket, that can't happen. I mean, that's dumb talk, Jesus. And Jesus is going, exactly. See, if you're going to be my followers, and if you're going to be the people that I am calling you to, you have to be people who are salt in this world, and you have to be people who are light. And you can't decide just one day, I'm too old to be that. And you can't decide, today I'm going to take a day off. Now, let's turn this into the practical side of it. The place I work, because I like to be transparent and honest. I've talked with my life group about it. I walk a very fine line. When I first started there and they found out I was an ex-preacher working as a mechanic, nobody really wanted anything to do with me. They just didn't. They thought I was going to be judgmental. They thought I was going to call them to pious actions. They were, they wanted nothing to do with me. Over time, I help relax that some. How? By helping them understand I'm not going to be judgmental. I'm not going to tell you that God can't love a person like you. Do I walk the line? Yes, I do. Do I sometimes find myself walking closer to the world than I'd want to? Yes, I do. When I find myself doing that, though, I don't allow myself to get hardened. I back myself back off and say, not the way I need to be. Okay? Because every moment of every day, whether I want it to be or not, people are looking at me. I am an influencer. And you are an influencer as well. Whether it be your spouse, whether it be a good friend, whether it be a coworker, whether it be your children or your grandchildren, whether it be their friends, you are an influence to those around you because you profess to be a Christ follower. They look to you for what that means. And when you have your bad days, and we're all going to have them, what's important to do is to remind people, because I've learned to be very transparent with it, that what I just did was not representing Christ. But by me asking your forgiveness for what I just did, that is. Does that make sense? Okay? We are to be the light and the salt in this world. And the only way we can do that is by doing it, by being it. And we can be that because that's what Christ has created us to be. The moment that we chose to say, I want Jesus to be my king, and we took that plunge and came up out of that water and received the Holy Spirit, God said to us, you are the light of the world. You are salt. So realize those things and be those things. Okay? Is it always easy? It is not. You can't just turn it off. And that stinks. Honestly, it does. We all have those days and moments where we just want to turn it off for a little bit. But God calls us to leave those lights on so that people can see us. This is the beautiful way that, well, I want to share a quote with you, and then I'll share the last little thing that Jesus says. Amy Jill Levine, a Jewish scholar, says this: "To be the light of the world is to shine not only in the dark places of prisons and soup kitchens, but also in any place where there is loneliness or despair, sickness or pain." We're to be the light for everyone. Jesus finishes this section off by noting that salt and light do not point to themselves when he says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." See, that's what we're doing this for. We're not doing it for our own glory. We're not doing this so it's a shining a light on us. That's what influencers do today. They shine the light on themselves to go, see how great I am? Be like me. And what we're saying is, see me? This one behind me is far greater than I am. And he is the reason why I light this world. He is the reason why I have salt to give. And in doing that, we bring glory and honor to him. And that's what it's all about. So I will apologize. I have gone way over and have not left any time for the discussion questions this evening. I will try to do better about that. But I thank you for being here. I thank you for participating. And we'll see y'all later.